Hello, my name is Tori Galego, and today I'll be talking about gender inequality at home and work for my Reteach It project. So, to get started, um, I want to start off with the history of gender roles in the home, and more specifically in colonial America. Families had different tasks depending on their sex and age. Women were very submissive to their husbands at this time. Women obviously had the responsibility of taking care of tasks in the home, whether it be cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids. And structurally, families were usually nuclear, which means that the families consisted of the wife, the husband, and the children living at home. No extended family would live with them. So continuing on to a more modern family life, which is what we are starting to see. Um, in a marriage, men were still expected to work and women were still expected to take care of the home. There's definitely a doctrine of two spheres here, which is a divided gender system, which essentially is a separation of house and production or a separation of house and work. The Great Depression forced women into the working force due to economic hardship. In situations like that. During this time as well, there was or households were accordion, which meant they expanded and contracted according to family needs, depending on if they needed extended family to live with them or not. And this all depends on the class and race in terms of women's roles in the home. For example, the higher the class, maybe women didn't have to work as much. And then depending on the race, obviously, that comes with its own challenges. That's a whole separate class and race issue excuse me, that I unfortunately will not have time to get through today. But yes, another big issue. Some recent trends in marriage. So, following the um, moving into modern family life, now we are seeing an increase in unmarried adults. There's an increase in age at first marriage, so people are getting married later. Family size is decreasing, people are having less kids, and we're moving into a more egalitarian or peer marriage. Egalitarian relationship just means equal respect. There's friendship in a relationship, there's intimacy, and overall companionship. And experts do predict more pure marriages in the future. Um, Changes in social conditions, changing the realignment of gender, economy, and social transformations. So it's not um, really changing or anything, it's just transforming and it's realigning. So I'm sure this information probably wasn't too shocking to most of us. We've all heard of gender roles. I'm sure everyone has been exposed to it at some point in their life. But you might be wondering, how does the roles in the home affect the work environment? So I examined a couple articles that I wanted to go over. The first one is called "Can We Finish the Revolution" by Padula and Theobald in 2015. Their purpose was to determine if there was a direct relationship between institutional constraints and preference formation, um, like their preference on relationship and the institutional constraints being the family and work policies. And they wanted to determine why gender equality progress has plateaued in recent years in the workplace and at home, because it was progressing for a long time and all of a sudden it plateaued. So moving on to the experiment, what they did, they had three different conditions. They had men and women participate in this study. The first condition was the fallback plan. This had the highest institutional constraint. And this was a more traditional relationship structure. The second option was an egalitarian option, which is more of an egalitarian relationship structure. And in both of these conditions, researchers did not prime participants with any information about work and family policies. And then in the third condition, it was a supportive policies condition, which had the least institutional constraint. So in this condition, they had the egalitarian relationship structure, but then they also primed the participants with family and work policies. So oh no, what they found was that a majority of men and women preferred an egalitarian relationship structure. Women's preferences were more supportive, or I'm sorry, they were more responsive to the supportive policies. This could be because for men, cultural expectations of being the main breadwinner, and they have less respect to gain from these policies than women do because they already have all of the power. So women are really the only ones that are gaining something here. And then their general findings was basically just like when people are given the option for an egalitarian relationship structure and less institutional constraint, they usually opt for that one. So the second article that I examined is called COVID-19 and Gender Inequity in Science, Consistent Harm Over Time. Sorry. This was by Calderulo et al. In 2022. And going into this, they already knew that women had more responsibility fall onto them due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And they really wanted to examine what inequalities women were facing in science specifically because of the pandemic. So, what they found, which is probably not going to be a shock to a lot of people, but compared to men, women report more negative impacts. They have increased domestic burdens, they have greater financial constraints, and a general reduction of work-related productivity. And with men, they just didn't have these issues. They didn't have things that they needed to be getting done at home. They were more productive in that way. And what these findings essentially mean is that there needs to be more support for women to focus on their research and work. And universities should consider adopting policies in order for women to not have such of a disadvantage than men. And some future considerations should be an increase in women in leadership positions, and also making faculties and committees more aware of the burden placed on women faculty. I do want to ask a question really quick. To all the men out there, now that you kind of see how like the home and the work environment are kind of related, how does that change your mind? Just think about that for a second. Okay, so like I said, now that we know that these policies, or I'm sorry, now that we know that the work environment and the family life or the home life are very interconnected, what can we do about it? So we obviously all need to stop and think before we do anything. If you see something, say something, especially if you're male. We need men on our side for this. Because again, men are the most in power. They're not going to listen to a bunch of females, unfortunately. Um, for example, if someone at work says something about, gender inequality or gender equality being stupid or that women shouldn't be equal to men, then maybe you should go ahead and educate them on what you learned in this video today. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Treat everyone with respect, whether you're a male, female, if you identify as non-binary, whatever you identify with, you should always just treat everyone with respect, especially since of the whole power imbalance between men and women, um, and everything like that, because obviously everyone is equal, everyone is capable of doing the same things. And like I was kind of explaining earlier, the change starts with you. It really does. Like if we can kind of change the mindset of our society and kind of get it out of out of our heads about this, or if we change, I'm sorry, if we change the structure and kind of like get it out of our heads that, men are more powerful, men are this and that, and women are, inferior to men. Um, that it can really go a long way in the long run. So, yes, thank you.